Boy, Hell in a Cell, and the question all along was, did WWE paint themselves into a corner? And I'm going to have more on this as I confirm it, but it shouldn't be a surprise how this one all went down. But we get the illegal massage parlor lighting here for The Fiend and Seth Rollins. The Fiend no-sells kendo stick shots, but he hits a Uranagi. Sister Abigail into the cell. Hit another one for a 2 count. Did the Seagal snap, but no pin. There was some of the most goddamn ignorant in-ring wrestling I've ever seen in my fucking life. And it drives me nuts because, hey, you know what? I ain't exactly Lou Thez here, but one of the things I was taught when I was wrestling was why. Why do you do things? Why don't you? Why? So you can put somebody's shoulders on the mat, cover them, and get a 3 count. How many fucking times in this match were somebody's shoulders on the mat, despite the fact that they kicked out at 1, or maybe they weren't pinned, but nobody cared to cover the other guy? So dumb. That's the point of the match, is to pin a person or submit them. So Bray borrowed himself a bludgeoner from Rowan and Harper, who probably really need that thing these days. And then just, it's all Rollins. And I mean, like, frog splashes through the table. Dio Madden said that the Fiend almost got impaled. I don't know how the hell that works with that fucking thing. Pardon my language, really do. A stomp onto the mallet, and then 2 flying knees and 2 super kicks, 3 curb stomps, a pedigree. He stomped again. He kicks out at 1 twice here. Then there's like 5 or 6 more curb stomps. Holy shit, man. How's he going to kick out? I don't know. I lost track of how many times they kicked out. Reminder, send a super chat if you want your statement or question read on the air, because I get the feeling y'all got plenty of them. Fiend laying flat on his back, no pin attempt there, so Rollins goes out, grounded chair shot. Fiend kicks out at 1. Oh my God. A ladder onto that chair, and he kicks out. At this point, I'm seeing Fonzie jump over the goddamn shark, and oh my God, it's so overkill. Rollins repeatedly smashes a toolbox onto a ladder and a chair onto Bray's face. Then he grabs a sledgehammer, smashes it into the pile, and the ref's like, no, that's it. We're done. We're done. We're done here. You know what? I know that Shane jumped off a goddamn stadium once, and that Mick Foley was thrown off, and that they drove a truck out, and Rikishi fell into it, and Shawn Michaels almost needed a goddamn blood transfusion at one point, but this is too much. This is so goddamn stupid. This made Bray Wyatt look dumb because he sits up after all the help comes to him and he applies the mandible claw. And what does he do when he applies the mandible claw, Jeff, Alex? He holds his opponent down for more than 3 fucking seconds! Now, hey, you know what? I scream this at the risk of people saying, I love Mark. He thinks it's real. He fucking thinks it's real. God, it made him look so fucking dumb. And I get it. The horror movie final boss isn't always the smartest. Michael Myers isn't always the smartest. Jason Voorhees isn't always the smartest. But goddamn, why was the match booked if it were going to this? Oh boy. Alex, I'm giving you first crack at this one. Well, I guess I had first crack at this one.
So here's the deal: when you have a character like the Fiend, the danger with him putting him in a match where he has to either win the title or lose his first championship shot, at this point in the build of that character is really dangerous. Because, I mean, if he wins the championship, then he's got to lose it at some point, and you've built this character up that he's this otherworldly, like, force of evil. How could you possibly beat him? So he can't lose, right? But also he can't win, right? So what do? You do this bullshit, which is why the match shouldn't have happened in the first place. It was way too early. We've only seen the Fiend wrestle once. that pseudo squash that sent Finn back to Full Sail. That's it. And the next time we actually see him come down to the ring for a match, by the way, commentary team, you gotta lay out there. You can't be like Jerry Lawler going, oh my God, he's so spooky. I don't know what to do, as he's walking down with the head lantern. Oh my God, he'd give Freddy Krueger nightmares. Like, stop, shut up. What broadcasting school did you go to? You ruined the whole mystique of the whole guy. But fine, because here's the thing. You also made him so spooky and weird that he never appears without a strobe light, but he can't wrestle in a strobe light. So what do? You do the red light district lighting. Like, I mean, the whole time, I thought it was like, holy crap, their light board got screwed up and they can't go to the next queue. No. They wrestled the whole match in it because they decided that you can't have the Fiend wrestle in regular match lighting because then it would ruin his mystique. Well, then you've built the character all wrong, haven't you? You figured out the way you didn't do anything right with him to the point where if you think that if he wrestles with regular lighting, the whole thing crumbles, then you completely screwed it. You completely screwed it up. Then you have this whole thing where he takes all these chair shots and all this stuff. He does all this damage. He takes 75 stomps. By the way, this is what the lead up was. Braun takes 3 stomps and a pedigree to put him away. So that's a callback. So Rollins has to do even more. Why does Rollins want to kill this man? What like has Bray like shown up at his house and threatened to murder his family? No, he's just a guy. He's just a guy wearing a mask. That's what we're told by a bunch of people. No. We have to murder him. And so he kicks out at 1. And he kicks out at 1. He kicks out at 1. How are you ever going to legitimately beat this guy? Ever. If you have this on file and people have watched it. He's unkillable. So now what? Now you booked yourself into another corner because now if the next time he has a match, if you're like, oh, let's have him face the Undertaker at Sands of Time, and then what? What's Taker gonna do to him? Is Taker gonna do old school? That's really gonna put him down for the count? What the hell have you done? This is completely screwed. You had a character and a storyline that was perfect. It was handed to you on a silver platter, and you fucked it. Why did you do that? Don't do that. You do that to yourselves.
Let's get to some super chats real quick. Fiend became Red Sin Cara. Somebody says, Eloquent says, I never thought I'd see the OG Sin Cara lights. Ross Gould says, just turn the lights out and have Bray disappear under the ring. Ending solved. I mean, maybe after the beatdown. Him sitting right up and attacking made him look dumb. Like he wasn't smart enough to do that 1 minute earlier. Hannah Moore says, I called them being backed into a corner, and, well, they sure as hell did. It seemed like, and when I say seemed like, I'm not reporting this, but it seemed like the arena let the cat out of the bag a little bit early, and they're like, well, shit, we got to do it now. Let's just do it. I know whose idea it was, and I'm going to follow up on it, but my God. Mr. Big Bad Bean follows up on Alex's point. Jeff, did they make the Fiend too strong tonight? You are all static. You are all static. You got to fix your mic. Drew Nichols says all WWE main roster shows on premiere week were trash. Great premiere, huh? Love you guys. Yeah, that was a wild one. That was something else.
Test.
Yeah, we got you back. Sound great.
Okay. This was a confluence of 3 different things that are an issue with the WWE. First, their love of spectacle. They love the big supernatural, larger than life. We make movies, and especially with Bray Wyatt, where we've had exploding monitors and singing children and all these other things we try and do to make him seem spooky all the time. And it's too clever by half all the time. Add that to the fact that they make really crappy babyface champions.
Bad.
They do. These guys, and the only way they ever get an edge about them is by doing heelish things. They sound petulant at times. Their alpha maleness gets the better of them because it appears they don't have friends when they're getting their butts kicked. I mean, they just make them look like geeks. And then the third thing, Hell in a Cell brings with it an expectation that you're going to see a violent fight within a ring that comes to a finish, in addition to some otherworldly spots or some violent spots. And that's why people buy tickets to the show. And it wasn't just that they ended it with the sledgehammer, which is just ridiculous because they need to somehow retcon that away from existence, because Triple H always bringing a sledgehammer into the ring has given this expectation that you can use the sledgehammer in dumb ways, but never in the way that you're supposed to use a sledgehammer on a person, which is with the metal part coming crashing down and crushing a man's head. And so you get a bunch of plunder, but you don't get a lot of great spots. Most people probably couldn't see half the violence because of the lighting. If my live arena experiences with their lighting is any indication, you probably couldn't see it. You probably tried to have to watch the monitor or the Titantron up there to see it clearly. You didn't get a lot of violence. You didn't get a lot of cool spots. You got a lot of plunder and a lot of Bray kicking out. And then you got the referee calling for a bell when people wanted the violence. They wanted to see him hit a guy with a sledgehammer to see if he would kick out. And then they probably would have crapped if he had kicked out at 2. But
the fans
making
wanted to give this
character.
The fans wanted to give this chances, several chances.
Yes,
they tried.
They really did.
And if they're not rushing for a refund going, we wanted a Hell in a Cell match, them chanting AEW to end the show, that's this Raw show might be in trouble if they're going to be doing all this stuff with it. I think NXT has enough goodwill, but God, if AEW people are watching this and not saying we need a viable alternative, and I don't have my hopes that they have all those instincts correct, given the weird John Moxley, Kenny Omega moment camera shot that's straight out of WWE, because these guys, some of them were raised on WWE in cinematic moments. Cody's my guy. Cody's the guy with the instincts I trust the most.
Yeah.
But AEW, their vice presidents have to be watching this and going, oh man, we have such an opportunity this week to earn so much goodwill.
And I'm with you on the building baby faces poorly spot. It happens all the time. And occasionally it happens. Like, hey, Kofi Kingston was a great babyface champion. Loved him. Thought he was great. Daniel Bryan back in the day, really great. Impact books great baby faces all the time. It's not hard. When you go to an Impact show often, okay, so sometimes you'll hear the crowd chanting for, like, OVE, but, like, Tessa Blanchard in there against Sami Callihan, they ain't exactly booing Tessa Blanchard there. It's not hard to build good baby faces. And these guys
I push
don't
back?
Huh?
I want to push back on your statement that Kofi was a good babyface champion, because he wasn't. He was New Day Kofi with a belt. He wasn't
That's a good
champion.
babyface.
Okay.
That's a good.
Throwing-
That's had him over as a babyface for the last 4 or 5 years. They
Well,
got
he's been
crowds
over,
that
but-
chant his name. It got people to buy his merchandise. It got to the point to where people almost willed this push into existence for WrestleMania.
Yeah, but I mean, the matches never came off as bigger than life, and his moveset didn't change to be a adequate, dominant champion. So you never bought him as a champion. You just bought him as Kofi in the New Day.
They really protected the Trouble in Paradise during his championship run. Really
Nobody
protected
kicked
that.
out of that.
Yeah, and the feud with Randy Orton really built to a head where he was able to, like, get revenge on that whole thing. The problem that you have with the Kofi thing is the way it ended.
Sure.
Also, with
that
this,
and throwing pancakes. I mean, that.
Daniel Cormier dances with fried chicken and ice cream all the time. I don't have a problem with it.
Okay.
But Corey Cropper, Nikita Krylov fan, says, it felt like they tried to make a 1994 Undertaker storyline work in 2019 with that entire main event. I agree.
Bring me the Kane playbook is what I wrote on Twitter.
Yeah. Drew Nichols says WWE booked this like Seth was a mega face going into this. Not many cheered, and by the end, no one was. How can they be so incompetent? They are, and Seth has no redeeming qualities. Like, I would much rather him come out tomorrow night and say, everybody that booed, you can kiss my ass. I don't give a shit. You weren't in there with him. I was. I did what I had to do to get out of there. Kiss my ass. Go to hell. I leave a lot of leash for my pro wrestling. I'm very open to suspending my disbelief. As I've mentioned, guys, like, I look at a rear chin lock and I'm thinking, all right, that ain't working in a real fight. I've never seen it work in a real fight. I watched grappling, MMA, jiu-jitsu, catch wrestling. That ain't ever working the way that they do it in pro wrestling. So you got to draw the line somewhere and you got to start somewhere, but I give it a lot of leash. The minimum I want is my wrestling show to make sense. That's it. I just want it to make sense. And for all the people that are going to come and say, well, the Fiend doesn't care about the championship. Well, then why did he sign for the fucking match? Why is he here?
There's ways of building the Fiend. The Fiend just wants to terrorize his victims. He doesn't care about being the champion, but he does care about making all the champions fear him. You could do that, but you haven't. You haven't done any of that yet. You haven't made that the character, so it doesn't make any sense.
If they had established a reason on these Firefly Funhouse vignettes, which became increasingly non-canon and really just didn't mean anything, if they had established a reason why he hated Seth Rollins and wanted to take him down other than being the champ, just anything in his mind, these people love you so much and I hate them, anything. Give him a reason to want to do this match other than, I like pain. Which is a reason in itself.
I think they've slightly touched this, but I feel like they could really lean into it. That Bray Wyatt, the Mr. Rogers character, is one thing. And the Fiend is a side of him that he cannot control. And so, you can do this thing where, the Bray is like, no, Seth, listen, I like you. But the Fiend, he just wants to hurt you. And I can't stop him. I want to, but I can't. You could do all that stuff. You haven't. You haven't actually. You're trying to play 35% of everything as opposed to actually picking an angle and running with it. And it's not working.
I'd be okay if the Mr. Rogers Bray Wyatt got beat. I'm okay with that.
Yes, sure.
I'm okay with that. And then the Fiend is the indestructible animal. My God.